المعصومين إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي أما بعد السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. We thank Allah for giving us this opportunity for witnessing another Juma and to share a few thoughts with you. I've talked about this a bit before, but since it is in the wake of the days of the wilada of our beloved Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Muhammad, wanted to share a few thoughts with you. There is a verse in the Quran in Surah Qalam, Surah number 68, verse 4, which says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wa innaka la'ala khuluqin azim. And lo, you are of a tremendous nature. Imagine who is saying this. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The azim is using the word azim, the great, tremendous, mighty, in reference to the Prophet. There is a span of over 1400 years of this man. We've never met him, we've never interacted with him, we've never seen him, but yet you will find in the hearts of about 1.8 billion people and more something that is unique. Despite theological differences, doctrinal differences, differences of practice, but you will find this in all Muslims, that there is an unflinching love in the hearts of all of these people, and this alone is a miracle in itself, despite the span of time. While sitting in the Prophet's mosque, you can just imagine the magnificence of this great being. What kind of a human being was he? And we want to look at him just briefly in a very simple way. The Prophet's mosque was not at all what it is today, 1400 years ago. If you look back then and imagine there are a few houses made of mud in one corner of the courtyard of the mosque. There is a pulpit in another corner. There is a prayer niche at a distance of a few meters, a small house. Here is the site of the mosque and the place where he prayed. And in the corner he used to converse with people. This is the center of his power. The entire domain of his strength, which served as the base of Islam throughout the entire world. This is actually the whole administration that he controlled until the time of his demise. When you imagine that history is made in this small space of 10 to 12 meters, you have to believe that this was in fact an extraordinary human being and a phenomenon. It is like you can almost witness and feel the awe of this. He is a person that wielded so much power that when his enemies wanted to describe him, they would say he is a prophet equipped with arms and his religion is the religion of the sword. For the world many times wrongly has projected him as a warrior. Yes, Islam was defended by the sword, but it was spread by the pen and by the hearts. None of the generals of the Roman or the Greek empires fought as many battles, yes, as the Prophet. It's not important the extent of battles that he fought during the 8 years, but what he was during those times. He engaged in battles, about 64 or 65 battles, the historians say, which, if averaged out, will show that there was a military expedition every 40 or 50 days. No single military man, considering his military operations alone, has been able to engage in as many battles during a 10-year period, together with having spiritual, social, and political responsibilities. However, his companions never considered him to be a military man. People came to him with the smallest of problems. We find a woman opening up her heart to him. She complains about her husband, how he has not slept in the same room as her, what kind of a mood he is in when he comes home, how he is with other people, and so on and so forth, without even considering who this human being is or his superiority. Whom can we speak to in such a manner? Can you imagine approaching the Prime Minister of the day today and complaining about your domestic issues? Would she have time for you? What happens is the way he behaves with her. The next day, the woman in the neighborhood come along and share their problems with him. The next day, all the women in the area come to him and complain about their issues. It is obvious that during the first day, he did not behave in such a way that people would not come to him the second day and the third day. This is the kind of a person who he was. And those who interacted with him and encountered him saw in him an intimate, lovable, friendly person. Unlike these worldly people who appear humble from a distance, but when you come close to them, it's a different reality. Another time we find another lady, an old woman. She wants to speak with him. She sees him emerge from his quarters. And the moment comes when they are face to face with each other. The Prophet felt that this lady wants to say something, but when he looked at her, he saw that she was trembling. She was awestruck. And when he saw that she doesn't say anything, he himself steps forward. He puts his hand on her shoulder and says, "Mother, whom are you afraid of? I am the son of a Qurayshi woman who used to milk sheep. Whom do you fear?" This is how he is in his daily life. This is how he is in his character, in his nature. We find in a narration from Imam Sadiq salawatullahi alayhi, when he describes the Prophet, he said, the Prophet used to sit as a servant. He used to take his meals as a servant, and most often he sat on the floor and ate. Indeed, he regarded himself as a servant. It was not a feigned or fake appearance. There were no camera opportunities. There was no picture opportunities. This is who he actually was. And I've heard it being narrated regarding the hadith of Mi'raj, when the Prophet transcended all the realms and Allah showed him his greatest signs. And at one point, Allah asks him, "Muhammad, what do you wish for? What do you want?" And he says, "I wish to be your servant." This is who he was in his innermost being. And if you find in the tashahhud of the salah, the mention of servanthood comes before his messengership. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. This is who he is. Another saying from Amirul Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib salawatullahi alayhi, when describing, and we don't need to introduce who Imam Ali is, and he says regarding one description of the Prophet, when we found the situation to be grave, we used to take refuge in the Prophet of God and sought the shelter of his presence in order to feel safe. and protected in His loving company. This is the person who has no match in the battlefield. He is unrivaled. Yet He says, we sought His protection to be covered with Him. And finally, I want to end with this. Another time He describes the Holy Prophet. He says, I have never seen anyone like him before him or after him. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwa Allahu ahad, Allahu samad, lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We have found in this past week in the news that there was a report by the all-party parliamentary group known as the APPG on British Muslims that has called on the government to adopt a definition of Islamophobia, which it says will help tackle what it describes as a growing problem. There are a lot of harmful myths, they have said, and lies about Muslims which are now believed by a large section of the UK's population, contributing to discrimination in all spheres of life, employing, housing, the criminal justice system, etc., the report has found. It's considered that it is so prevalent now in society that it deserves to be recognized as UK's bigotry blind spot, a group of MPs has said. And this is the definition that they have come to. Islamophobia is rooted in racism and is a type of racism that targets expressions of Muslimness or perceived Muslimness. And you can see this all around you in different ways, in the news, in the newspapers, in social media, so on and so forth. Importantly, they are also saying that adopting a definition or an official definition is not intended to curb free speech or criticism of Islam as a religion. And the Home Office data shows that Muslims account for 52% of all recorded religious hate crime as victims. And another poll recorded 58% of people agreed with the statement that Islamophobia is a real problem in today's society. However, and importantly, another poll by Ipsos Mori found that the majority of Muslims believe that Islam is compatible with the British way of life. Yes, this is a very important point, and we don't really have time to go into this, but we do not see any contradiction or dichotomy in this sense. So with all of this going on, what can we do? What can you and I do today to deal with this, to tackle this, to address this? There are a lot of things that can be done on very different ways, but perhaps the simplest and the fastest and the most effective way in line in following the Prophet's Sunnah is simply what? Is to show kindness to people. Yes, we can engage with theological debates, political factors, social factors, economical factors, historical factors. They all have their own place. But the simplest and the fastest way may be kindness. Think back of times in your life. You might have forgotten what people had said, what people might have done, but there is something that you will remember. It is how somebody made you feel. There is a saying, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will not forget how you made them feel. This is maybe because emotion is at the more core or basis of our beings. And if you look at society today, society is really thirsting and crying out for kindness, affection, and softness. It is like water to a barren land. Look at how today's life has become. It's a very fast-paced life. We hardly have time for each other. In how many families, if you look around, people, although in one room, but are on their own devices. Communication is less. Social media, which was supposed to bring people together, is actually driving people further apart from each other. In all of this, a simple smile is like that ray of light that breaks through the clouds. How it can uplift somebody completely. How about maybe calling somebody without there being a need for a favor or anything else? When was it the last time you received a call from somebody and somebody said, I've just called you to see how you are and to say that I care for you a great deal? When did we last receive such a call? When did we make such a call the last time? We have so many free minutes on our phones. We have data, we have all of these facilities. When was the last time looking past the homeless person on the street, feeling guilt and giving him a coin, actually taking a minute to lower myself, not from above, but lower myself and speak to him? How are you today, my friend? Are you okay? Things will be okay. Yes? Don't give up. Strive. Work hard. I believe in you. All of these beautiful human beings carry that light of God within them. And if you look at how the world is thirsting for this, there is this lady in India, you might have heard of her. She is known as the miracle hugging lady, known as Mata Amritana Damai, known as Amma. What does she do? She merely hugs people, speaks to them a few words of kindness, gently and genuinely. In India, she can reach out in a day to 15,000 people. She starts her day wearing a white sari, yes? And many unwashed people, many in rags, hug her, and she caresses them, speaks a few words of kindness to them. When it is time to go home, her white sari is often turned black. She's toured America and in different places, and there is a lineup of people waiting for hours in a queue just for that simple, gentle care and affection. And you know, the amazing thing is, she rarely preaches. She doesn't preach. She says she embraces all faiths. It seems that her doctrine is fairly universal. She hugs people as a mother would hug a child. You can see by this that those simple things are so effective in touching people's lives. Now, I'm not advocating that you go and hug every stranger that you see on the street, but you know what I mean. That simple gesture of kindness and affection will go such a long way. I remember this story that my teacher once told me. As he was walking, I think somewhere in Moseley or King's Heath, he came across this white gentleman, elderly gentleman, who was on the street lying down. Obviously, he was very drunk. I don't know if he had dirtied his clothes. He was bleeding, I think, but he wasn't injured, greatly. And what would we do? We would just walk past, not care, just another drunkard. And we would think, I'll become unclean touching him or whatever. So he helped him up, took him in his car, managed to find out where he lives, and dropped him home. And in this moment, when he comes to his house door, this man looks up to him and he says to him, "Are you Jesus?" This is what the kindness does to people. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He may open our hearts, soften our hearts, that we may reach out to all these beautiful people around us and touch them, even if it be in the simplest of ways. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin al-Mustafa wa ala Ali al-Murtada wa ala Fatimah al-Zahra wa ala Hasan al-Mujtaba wa ala Husayn al-Shahid bi Karbala. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Ali ibn al-Husayn wa Muhammad ibn Ali wa Ja'far ibn Muhammad wa Musa ibn Ja'far wa Ali ibn Musa wa Muhammad ibn Ali wa Ali ibn Muhammad wal Hasan ibn Ali wal Hujjatullah ibn al-Hasan